What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. It's Best Bets Show. It's our Week 9 Best Bets. Joining me to break it down, to look at every game, most every game, and talk about what bets we like for the coming up week. Pete Prisco and RJ White. What's up, fellas?
What's going on?
How you doing?
Great. I'm wearing a Steely Dan hat. Can't be doing. Why?
Yeah.
Because my hair is a mess and it was the closest hat available.
What's the best Steely Dan song?
Kid Charlemagne is my favorite.
Yeah.
Don't ask. Kid Charlemagne. A lot of people like Aja. This is a Gaucho hat. Shout out to Double Wonderful on Instagram. Makes a bunch of Steely Dan gear. You got to be really weird to like Steely Dan gear, but I'm really weird, so that's cool.
What is so you got a free hat then?
No, I bought the hat.
Okay. All right.
Hey, I don't know if you're not on Instagram, Pete, so you probably didn't see this. But you'll appreciate this as not only a old person, but someone who lives in Jacksonville.
Old.
Check out that. See that name? See it? If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. YouTube.com/pick6. We are live every day at 1 o'clock, usually 2 o'clock for the Brady Quinn Football Show. That's a Don Larson Jacksonville Suns sign ball.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that at?
I mean, my grandfather gave it to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Don Larson.
Actually,
up until last night, he was the last guy to have a perfect game in the World Series.
I know. That's why
he's the only guy to have a perfect game, but last guy to have a no-hitter in the World Series.
I don't count the
combined one.
hitters.
No.
There's also another guy on here. It's Stan M something. I don't know who that is. But
Stan M. Musial.
Yes, Stan Musial.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Stan Musial, Don Larson, same game. Grandfather got the signatures. Yeah. Anyway, that's the old stuff for you. The World Series going on, of course. Team no-hitter. But we care more about football. And we're going to talk some football now. Week 8. Did you go 7-0?
Yeah.
You swept the board 7-0?
Yes. What do they say about every once in a while a blind squirrel finds an
blind hog finds an acorn?
I found one.
Man, congrats, Pete.
What is happening here?
It was a fantastic week by Pete, but you can tell it was like a pretty profitable week for bettors because even Brinson got over 500.
By the way, I got lucky. I'll admit it. I got the late touchdown by Washington, and I got a late touchdown to cover my teaser by the Texans. So, I mean, look, you get them. Sometimes you get them. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah, I was doing pretty well. I think I finished like second in my like friends like picks league or whatever like that. You know, we run it on CBSSports.com. Like you pick every game against the spread. I was like, I might be making a move on the experts pick page, and I go there and it's like everybody was like 8-4 or something like that. Like that was a worst job. I was actually the worst out of us this week. Again, 4-3 though, over 500. RJ 5-1. So you guys,
we killed it.
That
you hit the parlay too.
Oh, that's right. I did hit the revenge parlay, the spite revenge parlay, which is hilarious. That like we hadn't hit a parlay in 2 years, and then I bust out this stupid revenge parlay, really just to spite you and YouTube and EK. And it actually hit, which is unbelievable hilarious. And
it was the Saints. It was the Saints.
Saints. You didn't let me have Geno, although that would have hit too. It was the Saints. Was it the Vikings?
Washington was part of it.
Washington was Pete's idea because it was like revenge.
No, it was my idea.
That was RJ's idea.
Yeah,
we falsely credited on the recap pod. I was like, wait. Pete did not say that. I said
my fault.
We got lucky for that one. That's another one got lucky. We got lucky.
Yeah. RJ now 27-19-1 on the season. Pete 27-20. I am 21-28-2. Gross. We will be, of course, running back the revenge parlay this week until it loses. And there's an obvious first spot for revenge. When the Vikings visit the Commanders, the Vikings are 3.5-point favorites on the road with a total of 43.5 in the return. I think the first game back in Washington for Kirk Cousins as a Viking. Doesn't seem right. Is that right?
No, I don't think so. But
I NFC opponents, you would think they would be.
Now, wait a second. Who's the revenge game for?
I think Cousins against Washington.
Okay, well, Taylor Heineke was once with the Minnesota Vikings.
I can't take both sides.
Yeah.
I
And in
think
fact, the reason he's in Washington is because what's his name? North Turner's kid took a liking to him.
Scott Turner
That's why.
relation. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
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 I think it's the Kirk Cousins angle, and I say Kirk Cousins on purpose because Bruce Allen once famously called him Kurt in an interview when talking about whether or not they would sign him to a long-term deal instead of franchise tagging him. And it's like, dude, you drafted the guy and you've known him for like 5 years. You know his name is not Kurt Cousins. Like, that is so disrespectful. At any rate, this line is actually down to 3, minus 120, so it could move back up. Pete, what do you like at this Vikings-Commanders game?
Okay. 3 straight wins for the Commanders, 5 straight for the Vikings. That kind of makes this a big game, doesn't it? I mean, and that's a problem for one Kirk.
Oh, stop. Cousins. It's 1 o'clock. It's 1 p.m., man.
I'm taking the Commanders. I think they're starting to play much better. I think Heineke gave them a little bit of juice. Wentz was playing poorly. I think the defense is playing better, and I think they're going to play better here. I'm going to take the Commanders plus the points. I think they win the game. So on our thing, Billy had it wrong. It's +3 for Washington, not -3.
Yeah, it's Minnesota -3 on the road. The Vikings, of course, 6-1.
Yeah. Washington's one of my best bets. I'll take him as one of my best bets.
Okay.
In a teaser. I have a teaser.
Okay, and we'll get to the other leg of that in a second. Obviously, I'm going to have the Vikings in my revenge parlay. But RJ, anything here for you?
I did check while you guys were talking. It is his first game back in Washington. He's only played Washington once, and it was at home since he's been in Minnesota. So huge revenge spot there. You know, the fans will be out in full force in Washington where they have little home field advantage. So I don't
actually, sorry. You know what? That reminds me. The other game in the revenge parlay last week was the Vikings Pat P revenge game. And he even said he tried. He was like, I tried. He basically was like, I tried harder because of the revenge.
Direct shot at
Prisco. That's an indictment of him then.
Yeah, perhaps.
The Minnesota defense getting destroyed by the pass. Washington's not a great passing offense. They're seen as solid on a 3-game win streak, which is why this has come down to 3. And Minnesota is seen as overrated by the market. That's what happened last week. Their number came down 2.5 points. I don't think they're as good as their record. But, what if last week we saw that miracle cover Sam Ellinger in his first start? I mean, this number's probably a little higher than this, seeing that Washington wheels are starting to come off. I think they're getting a little bit too much credit here. But at 3, I'm kind of leaning to Minnesota. But both these teams seem like fades to me, so I'm probably going to pass. But if it's 3, especially if it comes down to -110, I might go Minnesota.
Yeah, I like the Vikings in this spot. And I'm perfectly fine taking them in the revenge angle here too, as well. Like just on the money line, that'll be the first game in there. We'll see how many we can get. No limit on how much revenge can happen in the course of a weekly NFL schedule.
You're a sick man with your revenge.
I really am a sick man. It's more of a spite. It doesn't have to be full blown revenge. It's more spite. But I do like the Vikings laying 3 here. I think the Commanders probably a little bit, as RJ pointed out, overinflated. And I think the Vikings are like, I've been trying to use this analogy throughout the past week, but it's like last year's Vikings with Mike Zimmer and all the craziness in their 1-score games were sort of like, dating a crazy blonde girl who like loves to like get in a convertible and like get hammered and drive speed all around town and like just trouble brewing, right? And this year's Vikings kind of like dating the librarian, like a nice, calm, everything, just go about their business, take care of what they need to take care of. They're winning games. They're not crazy. They're not out of control. No, I
don't know where you're going.
You need to hang out with more librarians.
You need
to hang out with more librarians.
Yeah,
I do need to hang out with more librarians. You're right. Panthers at Bengals. Moving on. Panthers at Bengals. Bengals -7 at home against Carolina. If you were watching on YouTube, again, youtube.com/pick6. Subscribe, hit the like button, turn on alerts. You can see that the juice is starting to tilt towards the Bengals here. -7, -120 on Caesars, a total of 42.5, Pete.
Brinson, look at the bright side. If you dated a librarian, you can go in and get a book on the birds and the bees. You can learn all about it.
Unbelievable.
I initially was going to put Carolina in as a best bet, but the more I looked at this, the way the numbers going and the way the Bengals are coming off that loss, I decided to get off the PJ Walker train, and I'm going to take the Bengals. I'm going to take the Panthers, but I don't love it. I'll take the Panthers, not as a best bet, but I don't love the game.
I have the Bengals as a best bet at -7. Now that it's down at 7, it's been 7.5, and then the -120 is indicative of it dropping to 7 -120. I don't think it's going to get under 7, so this is the best number we're going to get. Look ahead was 9.5. It dropped with the Carolina offense looking good again, down to 8, and then Cincy laid a dud on Monday night, and then dropped to 7.5, now 7. But Carolina's defense is 30th in sack rate. They just got lit up by a quarterback who doesn't want to pass in Atlanta, and they're comfortable passing the ball. I think if Burrow's getting time to throw like he wasn't last week, he'll put up plenty of points. I don't care if Jamar chases it, and they have good enough weapons there. Bad spot for Carolina coming off the overtime game, and they have a Thursday night rematch with Atlanta next. Since he's a good opponent, so I don't know if they're looking necessarily ahead, but it's just a tough turnaround for them. I think Walker will take a step back at some point, like Pete was saying. Carolina's offense as a whole, I think, takes a step back in this game, even with the Chidobe Awuzie injury. And I think Cincinnati rolls. So I like Cincy -7 as a best bet.
I got the Bengals as a best bet as well. And you know what the primary reason is? I went on Nick Costos, our old pal, our old colleague, his You Better You Bet show on Wednesday. And I got on there, and they're like, I mean, you have to love the Panthers, right? You love the Panthers. I was like, what are you guys talking about? They're markedly improved from early in the season. I was like, what are you talking about? And even Ken, Lockie Lockerson, he starts getting mad at me because I'm like not showing the Panthers enough respect. He's like, dude, this team stinks. Like, they're not good. It was 0-0 at halftime of that Falcons game. They went on. There were 7 scores in the fourth quarter. Like, it's just an aberration. Like, Marcus Mariota doesn't throw a ton, and the Panthers don't want to throw a ton. And it just sort of spiraled into this crazy shootout. The Panthers, like, it's great. They're like, they beat the Bucs by 3 touchdowns. It's like, well, Tampa was terrible in that game. They scored 3 points, and Carolina had a garbage touchdown late. I don't think the Panthers are very good, and I don't understand why they're getting this kind of market respect. As RJ notes, 2.5 point difference in the look-ahead line. The Bengals got humiliated on Monday night, and Joe Burrow is not afraid to thrash an inferior opponent. Carolina's banged up on defense as well. I think we see a big passing game from Burrow and the Bengals here. I like the Bengals -7 as a best bet. No revenge there, obviously.
Take it off my slate then. I'm just kidding.
I know.
You gotta win. You're off a winning week. I'm just kidding. I just like taking.
No, I know.
You're good.
You're getting hot right now.
I'm due. Chargers -3 at the Falcons. Over under 49.5 for a Falcons game. What on earth is happening there, Pete?
The only thing that can stop the Chargers in this game is Joe Lombardi and Brendan Staley. That's it.
He's good
the
at
only
it.
ones. I mean, they're terrible what they've done with them. I know they have some injuries, but the banged up secondary is awful in Atlanta. A week away from the game, and the rib injury should be better for Herbert. So I'm going to take the Chargers. I think it's going to be a high scoring game, but I'm going to take the Chargers minus the points. I just think this is where they got to get it going, and I think this is where Herbert will get it going, even if he's got guys banged up on the outside. There are guys banged up in that secondary more so. So I think that's even more of a problem for the Falcons.
Yeah, Atlanta might be getting healthier in the defense. We'll monitor the injury report as the week goes on. Chargers might not have Keenan Allen. He gets the bye week and somehow gets worse. So that's one of the rare instances where you see quarterback getting worse with his health during the bye week. But yeah, I'm with you. Even if they're throwing to Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter and whoever else, I think you have a guy named Bandy on the team, which is a fun name. I think they'll run up the score here. Atlanta can't play defense at all. I would lean to the Falcons on the spread though. Atlanta's a PJ Walker miracle bomb away from being 7-1 against the spread. But that Chargers offense is going to have a field day against the defense because they don't get sacks either. So any worries we have with this Chargers offensive line with the injuries they dealt with earlier in the year don't come into play against this Atlanta defense. The Chargers defense, 32nd in rush yards per play, plays right into what Atlanta wants to do. The Chargers can't get their rush defense fixed for whatever reason year after year, and we know Atlanta wants to come in this game and run the ball. Both these teams have over half their games get into the 50s. Offenses have the advantage in both sides of both matchups. So I think over 49.5 is a best bet. I liked it earlier in the week at 48.5. I'd still play at 49.5.
I mean, this is probably going to be the highest owned game for DFS purposes, I think. Well, actually, no, I guess Miami and Chicago maybe could end up being in a bigger one because of how explosive the Dolphins offense has been. Regardless, like I think you'll see a lot of people sort of flock to this game because of that high total. It's crazy to see like the Falcons are not afraid to throw it 5 times and their total is 49.5. As Pete mentioned, the Joe Lombardi, Brandon Staley factor. like I'm taking the Falcons as the best bet, and it is partially because of the Joe Lombardi, Brandon Staley factor. They don't cater their offense and to Justin Herbert, which is insane. Like they have
Crazy.
one of like the 5 best young quarterbacks in professional football, maybe one of the 3, 4 best, whatever it is. He is an elite talent. I was dead ass wrong on him coming out of college. Pete was right. I don't like saying that, but it's very similar to, you saw what happened at Oregon. They didn't use him correctly. And by the way, look what's happening at Miami. I'm just saying, maybe the coaching staff might not know how to work with quarterbacks. At any rate, the Chargers are doing the same thing with Herbert. And Atlanta likes to hang around in games, and the Chargers love to let people hang around in games. They are terrible against the run. The Falcons should be able to pound the ball, even though they're sort of down on the depth chart. I think Atlanta keeps it close enough. I will take the Falcons as plus 3.
Sean Payton will get the best out of him next year.
Ooh. You think that's where he's going?
I think that would be an ideal spot for him. And
We actually talked about Sean Payton with our guest Kay Adams the other day on the show.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. I got the Falcons as the best bet, as I mentioned that. The next game that we will discuss, the Packers at the Lions. Packers minus 3.5. Over under 49.5. Some big totals on the board this week, and Aaron Rodgers laying a very small number of points relative to what you might expect coming into the season in Detroit, Pete.
Yeah, this one was a tough one for me. I thought I saw some good things out of that Packers offense in the second half against Buffalo. Romeo Doubs did some good things. He hit some shots down the field. So that's encouraging, but I mean, how encouraging? If it was 3, I'd say Green Bay. I'm going to take Green Bay anyways. I'm not taking Detroit, but this is a tough game. I'm not playing it as a best bet, but I like the Packers if I had to play it.
I'm playing it as a best bet. I like the Lions. It was Miami minus 3.5 last week at Detroit, barely covered. Green Bay's nowhere near as good as Miami. Detroit's offense looked back against Miami after 2 tough defensive matchups, so I'd say Detroit is better than what we will be going into last week than what we saw then. I know they lost T.J. Hawkinson in a trade. He doesn't move the line for me. He's been getting 4 to 5 targets a game. I don't think that's something. He's a difference maker where you need to move the line for him. Green Bay's defense struggles to defend the run, where Detroit has been effective with their running backs. If the offense for Green Bay is ever going to get back on track, it's going to be in this matchup. And if they can't do it here, then good night to Aaron Rodgers, I guess. But I think the Detroit defensive line may be able to get some wins against a shaky Green Bay offensive line, which hasn't looked good the last few weeks. So I like Detroit plus 3.5 as a best bet, though. If you're listening, I wouldn't play it right now. I think you might be able to get Detroit plus 4 as people maybe play a little bit too much into the Hawkinson trade and people want to be on Green Bay. So I think you might be able to get 4. So I would wait, but I like Detroit in this game.
Sounds like DeAndre Swift is a maybe for this game. He didn't practice on Wednesday. He only had 5 carries against Miami. Dan Campbell then later said that probably gave him 1 too many carries and that he was just not there. Swift said he doesn't even know if he'll be 100%. By like at any point this season, but like not like anybody's 100%. So that's just something that's something to think about when you're factoring in Detroit. I like the Lions too. I don't have it as a best bet, but I mean, it kind of feels like they're begging you to take the Lions at 3.5, but the Packers aren't good, and the Packers didn't do anything at the trade line to get any better. And I sort of lean towards the over here as well, but we've seen the Packers. You saw that drive against Buffalo on Sunday night was like. 8 plays, 48 yards, 6.5 minutes and no points scored. I mean, this offense is just a problem. The defense doesn't look that great.
But the Lions defense is historically.
Lions defense is horrific.
Yeah. So
like the Packers should be able to run on them.
I should be able to do a lot of things on it. If they get, like RJ said, if they don't do a lot of things on them, they got major problems.
Well, I think they got major problems. I would lean towards the Lions, but not taking it as a best bet either. Let's take a break, and when we come back, revenge on the mind. Next. Bills minus 12.5 at the Jets. I'm just kidding. There's no revenge here, I don't think. Over under 47. I'm actually not seeing a lot of revenge. We might not be able to get a parlay out of this slate. So if you see anything, please let me know. Pete, do you like the Buffalo laying 12.5 at New York?
I mean, if I had to pick it and play it, I would play Buffalo. I wouldn't play the Jets. I wouldn't play Zach Wilson the way he's playing. He's awful. I mean, he's the guy's a spinning top. Every time he takes a snap, he goes, it's like, I'm going to try and find somebody open. It's terrible. It's bad quarterbacking right now.
Did you hear his quote, by the way, after that game? He said he's like a lot. He's like, you get out there and there's just nothing there. There's nothing open. He's like, and the past few weeks I've been just throwing it away and taking my medicine. He's like that just gets kind of old and like it's not fun. It's like, bro, you can't just like.
Well, basically he threw his receivers under the bus and he threw the offense under the bus, and he should throw himself under it because he's not playing well. Period. End of story. Buffalo didn't look great the other night. In the second half, they kind of went through the motions. I think they'll get back on track here. If I had to pick it, I hate laying a big number, but I'd take Buffalo minus the points. Not a best bet.
The Bills tax is in full effect. We saw it with the Chiefs a few years back, where you get 3 points on the line. Regardless, I have my power ratings have this line at -9. That doesn't mean I'm rushing out to play the Jets, but their defense is in elite territory right now. Third in yards per play, top 5 versus the pass and the run. They surrendered 225 plus pass yards just once all year, 261 to Cincinnati. So they could limit this very, very good elite Buffalo passing offense, I think. But the offense for Buffalo is good enough to overcome any matchup, so you can't really trust. You can't expect them to ever have a bad game. They did take their foot off the gas versus Green Bay. You worry about them doing the same thing here, but you can't expect Zach Wilson to rally back for a cover like you can Aaron Rodgers. I liked Green Bay last week because I thought they could get to the back door. If the Bills get up by 13 at any point, I'm not sure Wilson gets to the back door. Buffalo may just need 24 to cover here. Buffalo games haven't topped 48 all year. Their highest scoring game was at 41-7 Tennessee game. I think this game will be lower than that, and it's going to be something similar to when they played like the Steelers, and it stays under. So best bet under 47.
And as as RD pointed out, the best bet 47. Obviously, we take the when we make our best bets, we have to lock the lines in. This has dropped down to 46.5. So it would behoove you to perhaps take it now or sign up for Sportsline, sportsline.com/join. Use promo code WHITE, and you can get all of RJ's picks and get alerts for when they go up. So you would be able to get the best possible number. Real quickly on this game, Pete, there has been Ryan Wilson particularly is suggesting that they should bench Zach Wilson. Do you think that's kind of a
no?
Yeah, I don't think it's a viable idea. You have to see what he
give him another couple of games. The guy missed some time this year. He's really in his second season. That's absurd. Let him play. Now, if he keeps doing what he's been doing, then you got a decision to make, and that means once you bench him, by the way, he's done.
Yeah, he's done for his career with the Jets. It's over. I also think that it's kind of silly with the idea. It's the Jets rebuild has happened faster than they expected, so they have to ditch stuff. The team's fine. They're not rebuilt. Also they were never built in the first place. Anyway, Colts at the Pats. Pats -5.5 over under 40 here as Sam Ehlinger makes his second career start in New England against Bill Belichick. What could go wrong?
I'm going to take the Colts and the points. I think they can physically run on them a little bit. And not only that, we always say a young quarterback against Bill Belichick, but we saw a young quarterback who could move against Bill Belichick a couple of weeks ago, and he had no defense for him. He's had problems with guys who can move. Sam Ehlinger can move. He can get outside. He can create with his legs. He's not Justin Fields, but he can do some of those things. And I'm just not sold on the Patriots offense. RJ talked about it last week. They didn't do much at all. And so I don't know if they're going to do much in this game. So I'll take 5.5 at home as a best bet. I'll take the Colts.
Yeah, they won last week, but the offense was held under 300 yards again. I don't know that they're any good. I agree with you there. Indy's defense, 8th in yards per play, 3rd in rush yards per play. Think they can make this a rock fight, and there's too many points. I would lean to Indy as well. And Indy's offense looks solid in Ehlinger's debut. If not for the 2 fumbles, they had 6 yards per play. And you're right, it seems like an offense that can mimic what Chicago did if they would study the tape and enact a lot of what they did against New England's defense and try to do that there. Of course, Ehlinger isn't Justin Fields. Very, very, very poor man's Justin Fields. But you can have success that make it a close game, make it a 3-point loss, if nothing else. So I would lean to Indy at +5.5, and if you like it, probably get it now because I think this line goes down before it goes up.
Yeah, and if you go back and look at the first or second year quarterbacks who have either beaten Belichick or have given the Patriots trouble, he's 30-6, I think, against those guys. It is primarily and predominantly mobile quarterbacks who typically give him trouble, like a Russell Wilson. I think Russ didn't beat him, but came close. And then Deshaun Watson, same sort of deal. Justin Fields, we saw if the Colts cater their game plan to using Sam Ehlinger's legs against New England, it should provide a little more opportunity for the Colts to score. I'm going to take the under here. I don't think either team is interested in trying to score. I think they're going to run. Both teams will run the ball a ton, try and pound it, long drives, eat up clock. Belichick does not have this offense cooking at all. I mean, Matt Patricia, it's fine, regardless of who the quarterback is. And I think that the Colts and Frank Reich will be very much invested in not exposing Sam Ehlinger, or exposing Sam Ehlinger as little as possible. So I like the under in this spot as a best bet for me. The Seahawks, Eugene, what's his middle name? I can never remember his middle name. Eugene Cyril Smith Jr. or the third heads to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Cardinals favored by 2 here, Pete. A little surprising, maybe. Another total of 49.5. Man, some points out there this week.
It is a little surprising, but I do think this one's going to get a little loose. I think there's going to be some points scored. You know, Seattle's defense has played a little bit better. Arizona's defense has also played a little bit better. But I'm gonna take Seattle as second part of my teaser. I mean, I'll take them to 8, get more than a touchdown with the Seahawks. I think the way they're running the ball, you know, the way they're going to be able to throw the ball against this team. And I just think that they're the play here. I wish it was like 3.5. I would have taken it, but I'll take it as a part of the teaser at +8.
It was a little higher than this. It's come down a little bit. Quick line move there. Arizona still being overvalued. This was the case when these teams met a few weeks back. I said Seattle should have been favored in that game at home. I think Seattle might deserve to be favored here at the Cardinals. But this earlier Seattle win wasn't really dominant, despite what the score said. Arizona just failed in several high leverage spots, and their pass offenses look good with DeAndre Hopkins back. They put more in the slot last week. It really helped them out. Kyler in that earlier game rushed for 100 yards in the Seattle game. He's still tough to defend. Seattle has a tough spot. They head to Germany next, where you can't get much worse of a travel spot if you play in Seattle than Germany, half a world away. So I think the value. I do think the value is on Seattle here, but with that tough spot, it feels like Arizona might like sneak out and get a win despite what the power ratings say and despite the strength of the teams. So I'm with Pete. I'm teasing Seattle as well just to be safe, and so they don't have to win the game outright. They just need to stay within 7. So Seattle +8, first part of my teaser.
If I told you, all right, over under Seattle to Frankfurt nonstop, 7 hours and 52 minutes. Over under.
Oh, it's over. That's way over that.
Yes, way over. It's 10 hours and 15 minutes. That is a long ass flight.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care how you're flying. That's a long way. And I mean, the good news is you don't have anybody hopefully doing, knee highs through the aisle. You would think
they got rid of him. They got rid of him already.
Yeah, they traded him and his knee highs away.
Otherwise, some of those Seattle players might have tripped them.
That's actually good.
Russ might be questionable, parentheses, Atlantic Ocean. Throw him out halfway through.
It's like the door just opens. I don't know what happened. Russ. I would take the Seahawks as the best bet. I mean, I like what y'all did with the teaser better than taking the Seahawks outright. I was a little tempted to take the over as well, but I just think Seattle's a better team. Yeah, Hopkins has made a difference for sure in terms of Kyler, but as we all know, Call of Duty came out last week, and therefore Kyler is maybe not completely immersed in the playbook. I think Seattle's the better team. I think Seattle's just a good team. Like I don't think it's a fluke. And I love hearing Pete Carroll come out and support Geno Smith by saying that he's like, look, this is what he is every day. Like we're not expecting any sort of regression. Like we're not expecting this to just completely fall apart. This is who he is. Love hearing it. Give me the Seahawks as a best bet. Titans and the Chiefs. Chiefs -12.5. The Titans are, by the way, the Bills are the 1 seed in the AFC. The Titans are the 2 seed. The Chiefs are the 3 seed. The 3 seed is hosting the 2 seed and are favored by 12.5 points with a total of 45.5, Pete.
The Titans, to me, we know what they are. They're all about Derrick Henry. Give him the ball and go. Give him the ball and go. And I think that's going to be good enough to keep him in this game. And remember, they beat him up last year. The Titans beat up the Chiefs last year. And I always go back, and this is why it gives me a little bit of caution, but I'm throwing it out this time. Remember when the playoff game a couple years ago, they were dominating them and then got blown out because they couldn't stop them. This Chiefs offense is good, but in that offense. So I'm going to take Titans plus the 12.5 as one of my best bets. I think Henry keeps them in the game, running the football. And, if anything, they get a backdoor late or something, but I think they're going to cover the 12.5. I'll take it.
Yeah, the 2 seed is what you mentioned with Tennessee. They've won 5 straight games. This is how they did it. They beat the Raiders by 2 at home, a Raiders team that is among, record-wise worst in the league. They beat a Colts team on the road by 7 that ended up switching quarterbacks pretty soon after that. They beat Washington Commanders on the road, by 4, and they switched quarterbacks. I know injury-wise, but who knows if he still gets his shot back. They beat Indy again at home by 9, so good job with that. And then they beat the Houston Texans by 7 in Houston. So it's not very, impressive wins for Tennessee, no matter they're winning. Now I know you got to just play the people that the schedule makers put on your schedule. So, you can't fault them for that, but they don't seem very good. If Tannehill plays, he might be able to do enough with his arm to cover, but I with his injury, I'm not even sure that's the case. If it's a Willis, Chiefs likely winning a rout. So I'm probably staying away from this game. It's a huge number though. So Praline is probably to Tennessee, but I don't love it.
By the way, RJ, that's a Colts team they beat twice that the Chiefs lost to, and it's also a Raiders team that the Chiefs beat by 1.
Yeah, but that Chiefs result was weird. Chiefs should have won that game. A bunch of weird stuff happened there.
I know, but I'm just saying you can do that with every team.
I mean, it basically boils down to how much does this line move if Tannehill plays? Because he was limited Wednesday, so it feels like it's probably baked in that he's going to play.
I would say so. I think you got to make it.
I think this is he's playing.
Okay. I mean, the thing about this game though is if the Titans get Derrick Henry, get him rolling and can stay sort of on pace, I guess is what I'm trying to say. In other words, they can't afford to be forced into situations where they're throwing for the entire second half of this game, because they will get absolutely throttled if they're forced to do that. And the Chiefs, you see Andy Reid just really puts it into third gear and runs, gets downhill, burns up clock in the second half when he's got a lead like that. And I could see that happening here. It's a huge number. It's such a big number that I'm probably just going to take the Chiefs in our picks, but no best bet on this game for me. Ravens at the Saints. Ravens minus 2.5, over under 48, Pete.
I'm taking the Saints to win this game outright. What I saw on their defense last week, and again, it was against the Raiders, and they sicked Devontae Adams, but that offensive, they looked like they had 12 guys on the field the entire day. It was amazing. That's the defense I expected to see all year long. The corner Taylor, the rookie, he's playing outstanding. When you look at Pete Werner's playing really good football, the front guys are playing good. They were all over the place. They were blitzing and stunning, and they had no answer for him. And you can't do that against the Ravens, but I think they have enough talent on that side of the ball to limit that Ravens run game. Andrew's status is still up in the air. We'll see how that goes. They're limited in what they can do passing the football. So I'm going to take the Saints as the best bet. I think they win the game outright.
Yeah, they finally showed up. I think it might have been more than Devontae Adams that was sick, even though he was the one that was on the injury report, the key guy. But it seemed like everybody was kind of sick in that locker room. So the Saints defense finally showed up. Does it outweigh the previous 3 weeks? They gave up 11 touchdowns combined to Seattle, Cincy, and Arizona. But they are elite versus tight ends. I don't know that they've given up a touchdown to a tight end all year. And I think fantasy points wise, they have the best, fantasy points allowed to tight ends. And we know the Baltimore pass offense relies heavily on tight ends. Even if Andrews is limited, they're going to throw it a lot to Isaiah likely, especially with Bateman out. But all 5 Baltimore wins feature less than 225 passing yards anyway, so they can win with the run. But if that Saints offense too, they continue to be effective, likely getting healthier at pass catcher in this game. Injuries might skew this downward. I think the line does move down. I might lean to Baltimore if it gets lower than this. But for now at 2.5, I think the Saints, like Pete is saying, is going to have a good chance to win this game. I'm going to keep it close at least. So I have them teased up to 8.5 as the second leg of my teaser.
Yeah, that's a pretty good look on that teaser. I'm not going to copy it because that would be pathetic. But
he doesn't want you. He does not want you.
He doesn't want me. Yeah.
Stay away.
I know. Man, I'm looking at the slate. I don't think I'm going to find another revenge game. I think there's only one revenge game. It's just the Kirk Cousins going to lay the juice.
So you have no parlay.
There's no parlay. Hey, we're not going to force a revenge parlay if there's not one. Revenge is a dish best served lukewarm. I would lean towards the Saints. I think Roquan Smith. I think Roquan Smith is going to be a massive difference maker for the Ravens. People really don't understand just what a great player he is and how much he brings to a defense. His ability to get sideline to sideline. It's going to help stop the run. I think it'll get the entire Ravens defense it's just sort of juiced up a little bit more than it has been all season. Help the secondary, of course, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to like pop off immediately in this game. I'll take the Saints. I'll probably take the Saints getting points at home, but not as a best bet. Andy Dalton should be able to throw on this secondary at least a little bit. Curious to see if they get Michael Thomas back. Although, as you guys pointed out last week, doesn't really matter who they got playing for him. It's a defense that really makes the Saints roll. Rams at Buccaneers. Bucks -3, 42.5. Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady, two future Hall of Famers, getting a total of 42.5. Unbelievable.
Well, one Hall of Famer.
Two future Hall of Famers.
One.
Utah, get me two.
This is a game for get right for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is it. It has to be this. They have to get right here. They will get right here. That's a bad Rams team. That offense is bad. Why the hell did he have Cooper Kupp in the game at the end of the game last week? Hey, by the way, Kyle Shanahan was no better. He had Christian McCaffrey in the game late too. That makes no sense to me. You got him hurt. You know, his status, it looks like he's going to play, they say, but we'll see how effective he'll be. I just think this will be a matchup of the Bucs defense getting it. We're going. I think the Rams offensive line is putrid. That shows up here. I'll take the Bucs as a best bet -3.
The Rams offensive line 28th in sack rate. Tampa Bay's defense 2nd in sack rate. They're going to get all over Stafford in this game. 2 worst rush offenses in the NFL by yards per play. So these teams should be passing. So good luck for Stafford there. Rams dealing with a Cup injury that also hurts them. Lack of reliable weapons behind him. You know, Allen Robinson hasn't paid off yet. Tampa Bay's defense overall 4th in pass yards per play, while the Rams defense is 25th in pass yards per play. Very big mismatch there, considering these teams should be passing. Tampa Bay, I know it feels like they're down in the dumps and they might not make the playoffs, but they're still in the thick of the AFC South race, even with all their losses. The Rams are likely more down in the dumps, you know, not thinking that their stock is as high after 2 losses to San Francisco, because you know you don't have the tiebreaker there. I have to trust in Brady over Stafford right now. Tampa's a better team. I think this line should be at least 5. So best bet for me is Bucs -3.
Yeah, I mean somebody asked in the comments, is this a playoff elimination game? And I got asked that a couple times this week. Do you think that
not in the South it isn't?
Yeah, well, right, exactly. Like the Bucs could get it. The Bucs could win the division at like 6-10-1. I mean,
not in the South.
Yeah, in the West, it's a lot tougher. Obviously, you know, Arizona playing better, as we mentioned, with DeAndre back. Seattle, you know, looks like a totally different team.
But even then, they're not done.
I agree.
What if Arizona beats Seattle? Then you're still back. You know, they're still.
I also think too that like the NFC, as we thought it was going to appear, is clearly like completely different. I mean, you have a Tampa team and a Green Bay team that aren't very good and aren't challenging,
and a Rams team,
right? Exactly. Yeah. I mean, but there's a lot of open spots in the playoffs, and you have the Giants who are playing really like there's going to be some room to sneak into the playoffs on the back end of that NFC. I think if one of these teams can get going, Tampa obviously can still win the division. I would lean towards the Bucs here as well. The Rams are a mess on that offensive line, and if Cooper Kupp can't go, I mean, does this line move to 5 if Kupp can't go?
It's got to,
right? I mean, he's
who else they throwing to? Well, Van Jefferson's back now, but he did nothing last week.
Yeah,
and he's not a primary option.
Yeah, no Kupp in this offense completely dissolves.
10 targets for something Ben Skoranek.
Five more picks for Stafford, huh?
Well, fortunately, he's already got his bid into Canton, so he doesn't have to worry about it. All right, Dolphins at the Bears. Dolphins -5, over under 45.5. Pete,
you gonna send me some tweets that I had from earlier the year, just like all those.
Somebody said that to me. They said, "Please talk about this tweet." I did
not.
No,
and you know what? I talked about it myself on Monday. I've been wrong about it. I've been wrong about him. He's played outstanding. I didn't see this happening. Yeah, I did not see this happening. He's been outstanding. Now, the Lions are like playing a 7-on-7 game. I mean, that's basically what it is. And so this will be a different challenge for him. I'm still going to take Miami, but let's see how this all plays out when you're on the road, outside, slower turf. I know the Bears aren't great, but let's see how it plays out there. But I'm still going to take Miami. It's not a best bet, but I will take the Dolphins.
Power ratings say this line is too light, but this is Miami's second straight on the road. Could be a windy day in Chicago. I don't think there was thought it could be an extreme windy day early in the week, and now the total's creeping up. So people, I think, are a little bit more optimistic about the weather conditions there. If it is super windy, I think that obviously favors the Bears' run centric offense over what Miami can do through the air, especially with Tua's arm. Look ahead was Miami -3.5. Miami barely covered at Detroit. I think getting Chubb is a huge deal, so you move the line maybe a half point for that. Chicago's defense is bad, obviously not as bad as Detroit's, even after the trades. I think Bears can probably keep it close. My lean would be to the Bears, but I think if the wind is fine, it's going to keep going up, and you might be able to get Bears at 6.
Yeah. Are the Bears? We had this argument on Tuesday's trade deadline recap pod. Wilson and Breach tried to suggest to me that the Bears are not tanking and are indeed trying to make a playoff push by virtue of their trade for Chase Claypool, despite the fact that they traded Roquan Smith and
but Roquan Smith was a contract. That's all that was. They don't want to pay him. He's not worth the money.
Okay.
He's an off-the-ball linebacker.
You don't think they're tanking?
I don't. I think they're trying to build something. You get a young receiver for your quarterback.
They overpaid for him, though. They overpaid for him.
Well, I mean, the Ravens overpaid for Roquan Smith too.
I'm just saying. I just thought they gave up too much for Chase Claypool, but that's just me.
They had to beat out the Packers for him. I mean, What if you let him go to the Packers and all of a sudden, you're looking up at the Packers for the next couple of years because Aaron Rodgers doesn't retire because he has Chase Claypool.
You have a speed guy in Mooney, and now you have a bigger guy in Claypool.
I think Claypool is a really nice compliment to Mooney and fits with what Justin Fields does best.
Yeah.
Like the playground style, vertical element. I don't disagree with any of that. I just think they overpaid for him. That's all.
Claypool's problem is, and he would have fit perfectly in Green Bay. He doesn't always know the plays, supposedly.
Ooh, some indictment. Raiders finally. What? Short slate. Look at this. Look at us. Raiders and the Jaguars. And some revenge on week 9 here. Raiders -1.5 over under 48 in Jacksonville, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jacksonville's the play here. Raiders being on the road back-to-back weeks. But, man, they do some really stupid things, the Jaguars, across the board. Coaches' decisions, quarterback stupidity on the goal line. Why are you rolling him out when it's 1st and goal from the 1? I don't get it. Did that a couple weeks ago. Late hits that lead to first downs and can keep drives going. They don't know how to win. But I think this is a spot where you can start getting better and play the game that you need to play. ETN's emerging as a star. The Raiders stink up front on the offensive line. Jacksonville's pass rush hasn't been great, but I'm going to take Jacksonville minus the points. I'll take or plus the points. I'll take them to win the game.
Yeah, Jacksonville unable to close games, but their biggest loss was by 8 in Philadelphia. I mean, they're competitive in all these games. You just don't know how to win, when it comes down to it. Vegas offense missing last week now has to face a top 5 rush defense in yards per play, which could be big for that offense because we know how much Josh Jacobs has been a factor over the last few weeks. But Vegas also has a good rush defense, to counter the ETN factor. And Carr to me is worth trusting more than Trevor because Trevor still isn't there, with his development. Maybe chalk up the shutout to the illness through the Vegas locker room. I would lean to Vegas here at -1.5, but don't love either of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't back the Jaguars anymore. Like, I just can't take these L's on these Jaguars.
Well, I didn't take it as a best bet, but I would pick them just because I can't take after watching and studying that Raiders team last week.
How did you get shut out in 2022?
It was awful. It was awful.
Derek Carr had 43 passing yards.
They didn't get across midfield until Stidham came in the game.
It's crazy. Is there any chance McDaniels gets fired?
No,
I don't think so either. I mean, the two names that people keep being like, they're going to fire these guys is like Cliff Kingsbury and Josh McDaniels. I just don't think those two franchises are going to pay multiple. Like, they don't want to pay 2 coaches who they just either hired or gave an extension to.
I mean, it depends on if Sean Payton says he wants to be in Vegas, then they'll do whatever they need to get him there. But they won't fire him.
I don't think Sean Payton would want Derek Carr.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I mean, is Josh McDaniels going to want Derek Carr after this year? You can get out from his contract.
Good question.
You saved, I think it's $26 million in salary cap space by getting rid of him.
I mean, I could see Sean wanting Justin Herbert in a big way.
You're saying that with a wry smile on your face.
Because I think he's going to be the coach there.
Okay. All right. If
they don't make the playoffs, Staley's got to go.
I would tend to agree with that. That would be 3 years with Justin Herbert, no playoffs. Then
you know what he could do? He could go play Madden football the rest of his life and go for it on 4th and 2 every time.
Oh! savage. All right. No revenge parlay. Maybe we'll get revenge in week 10. Not enough out there. Look at lines. RJ, you have 2 of them, though.
I like Chiefs minus 9.5 at home against the Jaguars. Jaguars getting 3 points more respect than Tennessee is weird, even with the quarterback injury to Tennessee. Jacksonville continues to disappoint. I can't see this line closing under 10, especially if Kansas City goes, that takes care of business. So Kansas City minus 9.5 is one pick. The other is San Francisco minus 3.5 against the Chargers. San Fran's is off. So this comes down to how the Chargers look this week. And we talked about the injuries there on the offensive side. Atlanta might be a little bit stronger defensively with their injury guys coming back. And Chargers are expected to win that game. So if they just do another, win a close game, that's expectations there. If they lose again in a game they're favored, I think this line might go up a little bit. So with 2 weeks to get Christian McCaffrey fully integrated into the game plan for San Francisco, I think people are going to want to be on them on this game. I don't think it's going to get down to 3. I think it could go up depending on how the Chargers look.
All right. Love it. That's for week 10, obviously. Week 9 best bets. Wrap it up. Here are Pete's best bets. Chargers minus 3, Titans plus 12.5, Colts plus 5.5, Commanders Seahawks teaser. So you get both of those guys up above a touchdown. Saints plus 2.5, Bucks minus 3. RJ's best bets. Cincy minus 7, Detroit plus 3.5, Tampa minus 3, Buffalo, New York under 47. Clippers. Jeez, Louise.
Clippers.
Yeah, but the LAC. I used to do a Chargers Clippers parlay in college on Sunday nights whenever they would play. Chargers Falcons over 49.5. Teaser of Seattle and the Saints. So Seahawks plus 8, Saints plus 8.5. And my best bets: Cincy minus 7, Atlanta plus 3, Seattle plus 2, New England under 40. I didn't really love the board this week, did I? I guess can I toss in the am I going against anybody? I'll take the Vikings minus the points as well. Just to give myself a 5th best bet. And that is it. That's the show. Short slate, 6 buys this week. So not a ton of games to cover. And we knocked it out in like 45 minutes. It's maybe a world record for this podcast.
Just the way Billy wants you to do it.
That's
Only
right.
1 or 2 digressions. That was good.
I know.
Baseball in there,
Yeah, well, what happened is they installed this in my chair. There's like a shock thing, so like if I start to go off on a tangent, they can press a button and it like shocks me back into.
Well, you know what you ought to do? You ought to put that somewhere where the sun don't shine, so when you're late for it, we can buzz you to get you.
whoa! I don't think so, pal. All right, that'll do it for us. This is a family show, Pete. For Pete, for RJ, I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you guys later.